Marion Jones is one of the most celebrated athletes of our time. After leading the North Carolina Tar Heels to the 1994 NCAA Women's Basketball Championship, Marion turned her attention to track and field and was hailed as the fastest woman on the planet for more than a decade. At the 2000 Olympic Games, she became the first woman ever to win 5 medals at one Olympics. However, in 2007, Marion was stripped of those medals because of her admission to using performance-enhancing drugs. As a result of her confession, Marion was sentenced and served 6 months in federal prison for lying to federal investigators. Marion voluntarily returned her 5 Olympic medals and publicly apologized to her family, friends, and fans all over the world. As a result, Marion has now committed her life to inspiring others who face life-challenging situations. As a public speaker and author, Marion candidly, articulately, and passionately shares her life story, how she came to grips with the consequences of her actions, and how she found meaning in all of it. She discusses real issues that we all face, learning to grow through pain, making decisions that will help us far into the future, overcoming failure and discouragement, and applying practical principles that point the way to personal and spiritual breakthrough. She resides in Austin, Texas with her husband, Oba, and their 3 children, Monty, Amir, and Eva Marie. Please join me in giving a warm Kinkaid welcome to Marion Jones.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Good job. Good job.
Pronounced it right?
Yeah, Oba.
Oba. I can't mess that up.
Good morning. Good morning. It is a pleasure for me to get this opportunity to share some of my story with you all. Ironically, I have been on campus before. Last year, I was an assistant at another school in SBC. We won't mention the school, but and I had the opportunity to come down here and to coach against you guys, and beautiful, beautiful community. I had the opportunity last night to meet with members of the community, and we had a wonderful time. But it's a joy and honor for me to have been invited to speak in this Macmillan Character Education Series this year. But before I go any further, of course, I think it's only right that I thank the organizers of this event, particularly the Hensher family, who have dedicated, it seems like, many, many hours to make sure that this program and this series is done well. I also would like to thank the organizers of the event, and Georgia and Andy and everybody who has played a part in picking the right speaker and bringing me here to share my story. But of course, you know, all of this planning and all of this organizing wouldn't mean anything if you guys didn't show up and support the speakers. And so I appreciate that, and I'm extremely appreciative that you guys have done that. As you might be able to tell, I'm a little bit excited to be here today. I woke up early this morning. I had the opportunity to stay at the Houstonian last night, and they have the best fitness facility that I've ever been to. So I got up at 5 a.m. to get my day started with a really good workout, and I'm ready to go. They have a busy schedule planned for me today. I am speaking at 3 different assemblies today, speaking with all the kids on campus, from the very young ones to the older kids, and I am super, super excited. I know that you all could be a lot of other places this morning, so thank you for coming out to spend a few moments to hear some of my story. Over the last few years, I've had the opportunity to travel all over the world to share this message, and it's a message that is not always very easy to talk about because it's so very personal. And I have had the opportunity to speak at different organizations, different companies, schools. I was chosen by the U.S. Embassy to travel over to Croatia a few years ago to be an ambassador, to share this take a break message that I share with young people. But what really excites me most is when I get a chance to speak with students and parents and teachers about how to best influence the kids in their lives and how to help them to become success. And although I have 3 kids of my own, as Andy mentioned, 11-year-old, a 7-year-old, and our 5-year-old princess, I tell her, I have to remind her sometimes that, you know, I'm the queen in the house, okay? You've only been around here 5 years, and it doesn't seem to make a difference with her. And so although my tenure as a parent is relatively short, I have had a courtside seat for 38 years as I witnessed my mom navigate being a single parent to my older brother and I. And she did her best to instill sound moral values with us, and instilled in me at a very young age this idea to dream big and to go after those dreams no matter what, which many times seem unlikely and impossible. This attitude continued throughout my career as a college and professional athlete. And now that I'm a parent myself, I realize more and more how much influence we as parents really do have in the world. And in many ways, I like to joke with some of my friends that we rule the world as parents, right? So we rule it because we help shape the future in so many powerful ways. We shape it at school, on jobs, in our communities, and perhaps most importantly in our homes and in our personal lives. What we do as parents really does matter. But as some of you know, or will soon discover, I know there's still, maybe are there any more students left in here? Maybe a couple. As you'll soon discover, lasting success, it doesn't just happen. It doesn't happen overnight. Sure, you can get some really good results in life by luck or a miracle without working too hard. But if you want to really make a real impact in life, if you want to do better than average and excel, or if you want to really rule the world, which I hope is the ultimate goal, then you need to make the choice, and that choice is to work for it. My point here this morning is going to be to highlight some of the challenges that we as parents, educators, and teachers may face as we continue to nurture and mold these young people to really go out into the world and to hopefully conquer it. My mom used to tell my brother and I, the truth is that you'll never rule anything if you don't fight, sacrifice, and commit to getting more, not more from yourself and more from others. As I got older, I reflected on this, and I came across what the Bible says that you have to ask, A-S-K, you have to ask, seek, and knock. These are all action words, and in other words, you have to be proactive about realizing your dreams in life, because success, it doesn't just fall in your lap, as many of us know, and I think this is what my mom was referring to. Certain things will simply not be given to us or our kids without consistently working harder and working smarter. I'll have the opportunity, as I mentioned, to share my message to 4 vastly different audiences today, but my overall theme will remain the same. It's about showing them that as young people, they have the power to choose to chase their dreams or not to. There is no in between, but as important as knowing or believing that they can control their success in life is learning how to do it, right? How to practically navigate through the various opportunities and challenges that they will inevitably face and come out on top. And those 2 things are, 1, realizing that their choices affect their outcome and have consequences, and 2, exploring ways how to do it. I think it's 2 of the most important things that we need to teach our kids to succeed in life, in relationships, regardless of what they choose to do. Some of these core principles that I'm going to share today are so necessary to succeed because they're universal. They work whether our kids are in school, in a job, at home, or even in relationships. We are here passing on what we've learned, the easy and the hard way, the good and the bad, so that they can avoid certain things and so that they can make the most of whatever talents and opportunities that they have. And just as we're able to help guide them to all their individual destinies in their own lives, one day they too will be in our position and hopefully passing on the baton to the next generation. Now, I just want to take a few moments to talk a little bit more about myself and what I've been doing. I know a number of you know some of my background, but I always like to give my own take on it because there's always another side of things. And although there's so much that I like to share with you guys today, I want to be specific and talk about choices because what we choose to do, or for that matter, what we choose not to do, really shapes our future. And although I suspect many of you know some aspects of my life story, I'd like to share with you a little bit about my background. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. My mother, who is also named Marion, is from a small country in Central America by the name of Belize. My parents divorced when I was 3 years old, and my mom was forced to be a single parent to my brother and I. And Growing up, I held on to a lot of resentment towards my biological father for practically abandoning our family. And because a lot of this pain, of a lot of it, I began to act up and act out as a child. But fortunately for me, unlike some, I got involved in sports, and it was my outlet to release all of that negative pent-up energy. I got involved in sports, and I found that it was just the outlet that I needed to release all of that energy. From a young age, I participated in all kinds of sports, from basketball to track to soccer. And my mom and I realized at that very young age that I was blessed with an incredible amount of talent, and I really had an incredible gift. So as I said, my mother made a lot of sacrifices because, she wanted a better life for me. When she traveled up to New York from Belize when she was 19 years old, all she could think about, she shared with me one time, was the better life that she could make for her family. She did it because she knew that I was special, not because I was winning and I was doing well in sports, but I was special because of who I was on the inside. She saw that early on, much more special than I realized until later on in my life. It's one of the qualities that I questioned about myself growing up, and even throughout my career, the good and the bad, this idea that I was unique, gifted, and special. I was portraying this image, this superwoman image, and many people, very few people, I think, knew of all the pain that I was dealing with inside. And so I make sure to share this part of my story to the young people I meet and I speak to, because I've been that age. I've been in situations where I don't feel like I have a lot of self-esteem. I make it a point to tell them that no matter where they're coming from, regardless of what is going on in their life or their background, that they are indeed special. I know that sometimes it may be difficult for some of them to believe, with all the magazines, the TV, the internet, their friends putting in their heads that if you don't look or act a certain way, or if you don't have certain things, then you're not special. As we all know, most of these things are superficial, and unfortunately, if you take them to heart and you let those standards define who you are, you'll never really have peace with yourself or reach your true potential in life. So about 10 years ago, I was once regarded as the fastest woman on earth, and after winning an unprecedented 5 Olympic medals in track and field, I was on the cover of all of the major magazines, from Time to Vogue, and I was earning millions of dollars in endorsements, and outwardly, as I mentioned, I was on top of the world, but inwardly I was really a mess. Although I was publicly projecting this confident and this strong image, my personal issues, which started when I was very young, were still actively undermining me within. I achieved a lot of success in high school, collegiate, and professionally, but all along I was hurting in some way. I didn't want to publicly, or for that matter, privately admit it. It's funny how we can know that something is not right with us, but we're either too proud, ashamed, lazy, or stubborn to get help sometimes. That was me. I knew that I had some special gifts, and I worked super hard to let those gifts shine, but from young I never did really accept myself, Marion the person, as being special. So as a result, I made choices that caused me to cross the line. Choices that I knew were not right or the best ones for me. After winning those medals, my life slowly and publicly became a train wreck. I went from media darling and earning a 7-figure income to being pursued by the government for lying to federal investigators. By the time that I pled guilty to those charges in October of 2007, I had lost almost everything in my life. I betrayed the trust that many people had put in me, including my family, my friends, and fans. But by the time I entered prison in March of 2008 to serve my 6-month prison term, my life was in pieces. Only a few years before, I had gained so much so quickly, only to watch it get washed away by my choices and my actions. I was tired and I felt defeated. I know that people often wonder sometimes how superstars who seem to have everything, right, get caught up in bad situations like doing drugs or breaking the law or in bad relationships. But the truth is, like you, we're human too. And the mere fact that we can be very good in one area and seem extremely confident or together doesn't change the reality that many of us still have personal issues that deeply affect us within. So I'm telling you this so that there's a better understanding that our main goals as parents is to assure that our kids know that they are special, because even if you make it to the top in whatever you do, you'll struggle to stay there and rule it for long if you don't truly believe this. So fortunately, through the prayers, love, encouragement of family and friends and supporter, I made it through my darker days. By grace and faith, I found a purpose for my life that I always knew was there, but I was either too afraid or I was too busy to access it, to use my platform to share about my experiences, my triumphs, my failures, and faith to help others avoid certain choices and to have hope during their own storms. So I've been learning to accept that I am special, and to be honest, it's not always easy to do, but I'm getting there. Even as I talk to you, this is an encouragement and a reminder to me. This leads me to my final point this morning, which is the basis for most of the speeches that I give when I travel. Whenever we as adults, but more specifically our kids, are about to make an important or a challenging decision in their own life, and it could be anything from which friends to hang out with, or whether or not to give in to certain peer pressure, to what major should they choose or what career path to follow, we should simply take a moment, 5 or even a day, and really consider what the consequences of their choices might be if they make a wrong choice. Once again, I can tell you from personal experience that by doing this, it can change your life. You see, once you get in the habit of doing this, it will become natural, and you could really benefit in the long run by thinking about the consequences of your choices prior to making them. I truly wish that as I became a young adult, I had done the same thing. I wish I would have consulted or talked with trusted people in my life before making certain decisions in my adult life. I wish I would have taken a break. I didn't at some crucial times in my life, and I paid a heavy price, but you and your kids all don't have to make some of these same mistakes. First of all, we need to take a break and think about what we want to do in our lives. We all need to take a break and think about how special we are. We need to take a break to think if we believe in ourselves or not. We need to take a break and think about what's going on with us. Are we getting in trouble? Are we hanging around the right people? Are we giving our best in every situation in sports and in our schoolwork and in our relationships? And although taking a break to watch whom we hang out with, set boundaries, and stand up for what's right, and even get proper advice are all important to making good choices, it's even more important that we follow through and we make the right and best choices for our life, regardless of what situation we face or what others chose to do. It's not always easy. I know I've been that age. In fact, sometimes it can be hard or intimidating to take that next step, but by making good choices, it's the only way that we and our kids can protect our future so that we can pursue our dreams. Many parents that I meet come up to me and they ask me how to encourage their kids after they've made a poor choice. My advice to parents is to keep the faith and know that things can improve. Share with your kids that their past mistakes do not have to define them fully or forever. If they've messed up, they need to own up to their responsibilities. They need to get past their fears and their guilt. They need to get up, brush themselves off, and face whatever challenges are ahead with the resolve to try as hard as they can, as best as they can, for as long as they can. And if they're under stress or unsure about what to do or where to go, tell them to take a break. Take a step back and think about the consequences of their choices. Take a break and have faith that things can get better. And I'm sure that there'll be grace to help make them get through. So once again, I just want to thank everybody for listening to me this morning and allowing me to be a part of this series. And thanks for coming out and letting me share with you this morning. Thank you very much.